Sophie Cunningham goes in the post-game press conference and confirms what we've all known all along.
We've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands.
This locker room is split, and she uses the term different islands going on in this locker room.
Sophie literally says there's a little thing going on in the locker room.
That's not good. That's not good to hear.
Just moments ago, Sophie Cunningham broke the silence. And what she revealed about the Indiana Fever locker room should concern every Caitlin Clark fan.
There's one really concerning thing that Sophie Cunningham said.
I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own island.
It's been a disaster. The good teams can keep the locker room together.
Fractured chemistry, zero protection, and a team falling apart from the inside. Caitlin isn't just fighting opponents, she's fighting alone.
Caitlin Clark is the star player of the WNBA.
The most popular woman ever in the WNBA, Caitlin Clark.
If you still believe in Caitlin Clark and know she deserves better, drop a 100% in the comments right now. Because after hearing what Sophie just said, this team is in crisis and nobody's shielding their star.
Caitlin Clark is the needle. Caitlin is box office.
Caitlin Clark is the star. Everything else is wrapped around her, and everything else is revolving around her. She's Rookie of the Year in the WNBA.
For weeks, fans speculated something was off with the Indiana Fever. But now Sophie Cunningham has confirmed it. The locker room is fractured, and the team is drifting apart when Caitlin Clark needs them the most. In her post-game press conference, Sophie didn't hold back. She said plainly,
Sophie Cunningham, in the post-game interview, speaks on this team and the islands within the locker room.
"We have our own islands." That phrase hit like a bombshell.
I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own island.
It wasn't just about basketball. It was about disconnected teammates, lack of unity, and no one stepping up to lead.
Everybody's on their own little island.
On a team built around a generational rookie like Caitlin Clark, that's a red flag waving in front of every fan.
Take care of our locker room.
Whew! You did a shit job at that.
Sophie admitted the team has wavered and they're failing to lean on each other. Translation? Caitlin isn't just being knocked down physically in games. She's not being picked up emotionally either.
Caitlin Clark, plasters over all the cracks. She realistically plasters over all the cracks of this team. This team is not structured well.
The very people who are supposed to have her back can't even get on the same page. Last year, this team had chemistry. Even during losses, the locker room stayed tight.
Even when they were losing games, it seemed like the locker room was in a good spot.
But this season, Sophie says it's different.
We got no Erica Wheeler. We got no Christy Sides, the chaperone. We got none of that.
The vibes are off. The energy is splintered.
Vibes are good. The vibes do not seem to be good right now.
And multiple creators have pointed out that the Fever's biggest problem isn't just poor play, it's poor culture. One creator said it best. They never said this last year. They always protected the locker room.
They never said that last year. It was never said, she's not questioning the locker room, not saying there's locker room issues, because there's a big difference between a locker room not being super close and there not being issues. And everything about the Fever last year was protect the locker room, protect the locker room, protect the locker room.
Now Sophie's out here waving a red flag. And this isn't a rookie speaking out of turn. It's a veteran. Sophie took ownership, saying she needs to do a better job grouping people. But that doesn't fix what's already been exposed.
Sophie Cunningham coming out there and effectively saying there's a big difference between her saying there are locker room issues and her saying the locker room maybe isn't where it needs to be.
Caitlin Clark is in a locker room that's not built to support her, emotionally, mentally, or physically.
Team chemistry is an issue, or is maybe not an issue, but isn't a strength off the floor. That is a problem.
And that failure, it's playing out in real time on the court.
It is not looking positive for them to be fixed. We can be honest here. It's not looking positive.
In games where Caitlin takes hits, you don't see her teammates rushing to defend her. In key moments, they fall apart in the fourth. Sophie even called it out herself. They scored 35 points on us in one quarter.
They scored 35 points, I think you guys said. That just cannot happen.
A team without discipline, focus, or trust. This isn't about losing a few games. It's about a culture collapsing.
The Indiana Fever are in a disastrous situation right now. They're in an absolutely disastrous situation.
And when your star player is being left to stand alone, you don't just have a team problem, you have a crisis.
If it's not minor, then again, like I'm getting very close to just writing off the season.
Sophie Cunningham's warning about different islands in the Fever locker room didn't come out of nowhere. It was the result of months of chaos, bad signings, and a front office that seems completely disconnected from its franchise centerpiece, Caitlin Clark. And it all starts with Dewana Bonner and Natasha Howard. Let's be clear. Dewana Bonner wasn't just another player.
Whose idea was it to bring these old dinosaurs and put them on this roster, starting with Dewana Bonner?
She was given a max contract by the Fever in the offseason, a signing so baffling, fans and analysts still can't make sense of it. Bonner came in with experience, sure, but also with baggage. And despite her resume, the results were instant friction. Her presence in the locker room quickly became a source of tension. In fact, some insiders speculate her exit wasn't just about performance. It was about preserving what little unity the team had left.
One of the fractures was a Dewana Bonner group off to the side.
One podcast host even said, "You've got to wonder, did the Fever decide they had to get her out of that locker room to protect the team from splitting even further?" When Dewana Bonner was suddenly released, it shocked the WNBA world, but now in hindsight, it makes sense. She may have been a wedge in the very locker room Caitlin was trying to hold together. Then there's Natasha Howard, who remains a bigger mystery and a bigger problem. She's been heavily criticized by fans and creators for her lack of urgency, questionable effort, and off-court behavior. During one recent game, she showed more concern for an opposing player than for her own teammates.
Tasha Howard decides that she'd rather rub up on Ezi Magdeburg's leg.
Even when Caitlin Clark was knocked down hard, Natasha looked the other way. No emotion, no protection, nothing.
Anytime Caitlin Clark's been knocked to the ground, anytime Aaliyah Boston's been punked, anytime Lexi Hull's been beat up, Sophie Cunningham's been beat up, any more concern about somebody on the other team than from her own team.
One viral commentator put it bluntly.
Salute to Ag Nation for bringing that to everybody's attention.
There's more concern shown for players on other teams than when Caitlin gets punked, Aaliyah gets hit, or Sophie gets slammed. It's weird. It's embarrassing. And yet, despite her underwhelming play, Howard continues to get big minutes, while players like Sophie Cunningham, who actually care, are left on the bench. Even worse, fans believe this loyalty to Howard is tied directly to Stephanie White, the head coach who previously coached her in Connecticut. It's not about merit, it's about politics. This is where the damage becomes clear. By keeping veterans who aren't invested, and by pushing out players who were, the Fever sabotaged their own chemistry. The locker room has broken into cliques, and one creator even mapped them out into literal islands. Caitlin, Lexi Hull, and Sophie on one. Natasha, Coulson, and Turner on another.
Sydney Coulson is on Class Clown Island. She's the jokester. She got Stephanie White and Aaliyah Boston doing some dumbass TikTok dance.
Others like Aaliyah and Dantas caught in the middle.
Maris Dantas is on an island as well. I just want to play ball island.
Unsure who to align with.
The Rock and the Hard Place Island. Rock and the Hard Place Island. They know what it takes to win. Now they catch themselves in the middle of this weird locker room race war.
There's even talk of a locker room race war.
The Social Justice Warrior Island. Yeah, that's right. Brianna Turner on an island all by herself. All by herself, reading her protest books, reading her activism books.
With players feeling caught between social agendas and team loyalty. One analyst went so far as to say, they want to play for Caitlin, but something's pulling them back, and it's not basketball. That kind of internal division doesn't just make headlines, it destroys seasons. Let's not forget, last year's Fever team was tight. They lost games, but they had heart. They had chemistry. Now, that's gone. And with no Erica Wheeler or Christy Sides, both of whom helped glue last year's team together, the Fever have no veterans capable of holding the locker room accountable. Instead, they signed Hollywood names and social media stars. And what did that get them? Double-digit collapses, Caitlyn getting bullied on the court, a locker room leader like Sophie begging for unity on live TV. And here's the most heartbreaking part. Caitlin Clark was supposed to change everything. The Fever had a golden opportunity to surround her with youth, speed, and shooters. Instead, they surrounded her with drama, egos, and aging veterans who don't fit her style.
Many different islands going on in this locker room.
Or have her back. So when Sophie says they've wavered, what she's really saying is this: we failed to protect Caitlyn. We let the wrong people in, and now we're paying the price. And unless something drastic changes, this locker room crisis could turn into a complete collapse. Not just for the Fever season, but for the trust Caitlin Clark once had in this franchise.
Take care of our locker room.
Whew! You did a shit job at that.
No one likes us, right? So everyone in our locker room, that's the only type of people that we have that we can lean on. And we got to be better in that area. We have got to stay disciplined. We have to stay focused. We need to get consistent, and we got to lean on each other. And I think that we've kind of wavered a little bit on that. We have our own islands, but as one of the leaders on the team, I got to do a better job of grouping people.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Caitlin Clark was brought to Indiana as a savior. But what she's walked into is a disaster. A team with no clear direction, a locker room in chaos.
Stephanie White is, in fact, trying to turn the Indiana Fever into last year's Connecticut Sun.
And a front office that seems more interested in protecting its own decisions than protecting its star. And what makes it worse? Everyone sees it. Everyone knows it. Let's rewind to April. The Fever selected Caitlin Clark #1 overall. Not just because of her skill, but because of the hope she brought. The most watched player in women's basketball history. The face of a new WNBA era.
WNBA rumors suggest Caitlin Clark will be among the first stars making $1 million annually. The most notable of which is, y'all already know who, the needle mover, Caitlin Clark.
So in 2024, she averaged 16.5 points per game, 4 assists, 5.5 rebounds. She shot 37% from the field and 31.8% from three. Now, if you look at her preseason in 2025, she only played 2 games in this preseason, and one was against that Brazilian national team. She played 21 minutes. She averaged 14.5 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. She shot 52.5% from the field and 50% from three-point range.
This was the golden ticket to revive a franchise and transform the league. Instead, what did they give her? A broken system, a broken locker room, and teammates who often stand around when she's getting knocked to the floor.
This team is slow, small, and not aggressive outside of Caitlin Clark.
Let's talk about that lack of protection, because it's not just metaphorical, it's literal. Time after time this season, Caitlin Clark has taken hard fouls, elbows, blindsides. And while the fans erupt and cameras zoom in, her teammates do nothing. No one runs up to defend her. No one gets in the ref's face. No one draws a line in the sand. One creator pointed out, Natasha Howard showed more concern for an opposing player's ankle than she did when Caitlin Clark was on the floor in pain. That's all you need to know. This is deeper than just missed rotations or bad coaching. This is about a culture that's failed to rally around the very player it was supposed to be built on.
That's nice.
And she was shooting the shit out of it.
Of course she was.
Right, so she was shooting the shit out of it. And
she's the face of the league.
Agreed.
She's the face of the league. Agreed.
Just have nothing but great things to say about who she is as a person. She's so welcoming and so warm as an individual that she can have a conversation with anybody. She's cut from the same cloth as me in that regard. You know what? Us Midwesterners, we tend to just, accept everybody with open arms. She was so kind to my family and everyone in the suite when she came to KC. So huge fans of Caitlin Clark.
And let's talk about coaching, because Stephanie White was handed the keys to a Ferrari and then asked it to drive like a tractor. Her system, if you can even call it that, is straight out of the old WNBA playbook. Slow pace, static offense, and a clear refusal to let Caitlin do what she does best: run, push tempo, and light up defenses from anywhere on the court. Multiple analysts called it puke ball. One even said, she took the best offense post-Olympic break and handed it to the coach who ran the worst offense in the league. It's basketball malpractice. This isn't just poor strategy, it's sabotage.
We're now stuck with vomit basketball for multiple years, And we're going to see increasingly declining WNBA ratings.
Caitlyn's entire college identity was about pace, spacing, and creative freedom. But under White's system, she's often stranded at the top of the key, while teammates chuck up contested shots with 17 seconds left on the shot clock. Even worse, the few plays where she and Aaliyah Boston run pick and rolls, the only moments the offense truly works, those get shut down too. You can literally see the team succeed when they ditch the coach's plan and follow their instincts. But that only happens in flashes because structure suffocates them again and again. And don't think fans haven't noticed. The frustration isn't just on YouTube. It's in the stands. It's online. It's in post-game interviews where Caitlyn's face says more than her words ever could.
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main draw.
She wasn't the one who was full sprinting down the court.
Tired, beaten up, disappointed, still professional, but more and more isolated. She was promised a franchise ready to compete. What she got was a fractured locker room, questionable veterans, a coach from the past, and a front office asleep at the wheel. And speaking of that front office, Amber Cox and Kelly Kroskoff are now facing major backlash for this mess.
Amber Cox and Kelly Kroskoff, you frauds. You absolute frauds. You have scammed the fan base.
Fans have accused them of hiding behind Stephanie White while they escape blame. As one furious creator put it, they're like Bart Simpson hiding in the bushes while Stephanie takes all the heat. But make no mistake, they built this mess. The criticism is loud and clear. They failed to scout internationally. They failed to bring in modern athletes who fit Caitlyn's game. They failed to build a team with speed, shooting, and defense. And worst of all, they let social politics and vanity signings outweigh smart basketball decisions. While the Liberty and Aces were stacking young international stars, Indiana was handing max contracts to aging names for PR headlines. While other teams were building rosters to complement their stars, the Fever tossed Caitlyn into a fire and hoped she'd save them anyway.
Caitlin Clark effect seems to be crazier than year one.
I love watching her score and just everything about her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball, period.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT.
She signed my jersey. So happy, I'm crying. I'm so happy. This is the best day ever.
Caitlin Clark is the needle mover.
She is the needle mover.
She is the franchise player.
And she was the MVP. She is the main draw.
She wasn't the one who was full sprinting down the court.
But here's the truth. Caitlin Clark has done more than anyone could have expected. She's led the league in assists. She's broken viewership records. She's handled media pressure like a veteran. She's grown her game, stayed classy through controversy, and still finds a way to compete, even when her own teammates don't rise with her. She's carried this franchise on her back, but even the strongest backs can only carry so much weight before they break. And if the Fever don't wake up, if they don't start building with Caitlyn instead of expecting her to fix everything alone, they won't just lose games. They'll lose her, and at that point, the damage won't just be a bad season. It'll be the collapse of one of the most promising eras in WNBA history before it ever had the chance to begin.
Caitlin Clark is a rising star in women's basketball. She's pulling in crazy viewership numbers.
She's my role model. I really look up to her.
Why do you like Caitlin?
And she's so good at basketball.
Because she's that awesome person and she has like a lot of aura, so like.
Sophie Cunningham didn't just drop a soundbite, she exposed the truth. The Indiana Fever locker room isn't united, and their failure to protect Caitlin Clark, on and off the court, is no longer a rumor. It's reality. But here's what makes Caitlin different. Even when the system is broken, even when the chemistry is gone, even when the hits keep coming, she keeps showing up, leading, competing, inspiring. But she can't do it alone. The front office needs to wake up. The coaching staff needs to adapt. And this team, they need to decide, are they building a dynasty or wasting a generational talent? If you still believe in Caitlin Clark, if you believe she deserves a team that protects her, fights for her, and plays for her, drop a 100% in the comments. Let the Fever, the fans, and the entire league hear you loud and clear. Caitlin Clark deserves better. and we're not staying quiet anymore.